Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everybody. We are from set group, me, Asliza Latul Faridoh, Nabila Huluki and Nisfatun Mufidah. We will explain about the concept of Lingua Franca, Pidgins, and Creoles. First number, Lingua Franca. The definition of Lingua Franca is a language or mixture of language used as a medium of communication by people whose native language are different. It is from Italian or language Frankish, and also known as a trade language, contact language, international language, and global language. The term English as a lingua franca or ELF refer to the teaching, learning, and use of the English language as a common means of communication for speakers of different native language. So the concept of ELF or English as a lingua franca. First number, ELF communication normally occur in highly variable socio or lingua cultural groups or networks, where the people taking part come from numerous lingua culture backgrounds, as opposed to more clearly definable communities. So second number, spoken communication in ELF typically takes place in more or less changing communities, or in other words, the stability is not a criterion for definition. These kinds of communities makes us rethink the notion of community and the closely linked notion of variety. Its mean from this language is usually used in a large area for communication purpose between two people who have two different language and both cannot communicate with the language used by the other person, like the example in is Indonesian language. Or the other example is English, which is the current dominant lingua franca of international diplomacy, business, science, technology, and aviation, but many other languages serve or have served at different historical periods as lingua franca is particular region, countries, or in special contexts. Okay, now for me, the next is our sister Nabila Huluki. The time is yours.
Okay, for the next chapter, we discuss about the concept of Pidgin. So, what is Pidgin? Pidgin is a simple language. Pidgin language develops in situations where the speaker is not a native speaker. Pidgin is also a language that arises as a result of the interaction between two groups who speak different language and do not understand what is being said with each other. So they use what is called the pidgin to communicate. In other situations, there are people with different language background who must communicate with others but with one language that is most dominant. We can also define pidgin as the use of two or more languages which is made easier as a means of social communication in short contexts between people of different language and not the native language. In a simple explanation, we can define pidgin as a mixed language of two or more languages that arises naturally because each speaker of the original language does not understand each other. Of course, the pidgin is created so that each party can communicate with each other. Pidgin is formed when the speaker have translation or interaction with speakers of other language, which are used as colonial language such as Portuguese, Spanish, or English, Indian, Chinese, African, or Indian, and American. So, we discuss about the function of Pidgin. Pidgin can be a very useful language because it can be used by people who have different language with different ethnic groups. In a multilingual language community, parents can use the Pidgin language in general and throughout the day. It can be in markets, in church, in office, and on public transportation, which can also be used as everyday language used at home. In this case, children need that language as their first language, and it will develop into a Creole language. So, the next is the example of Pidgin. The example is when the people of East Java who speak Javanese meet the people of Bandung in Sundanese. They gather in a cooperation and often meet every 3 times a week. With a very long time intensity, finally the two languages, Javanese and Sundanese, mix into one language in conversation every time there is communication in the cooperation. Even though the two languages are mixed, the two of them cannot smoothly understand everything about the language other their own mother tongue. The East Javanese, who are in the cooperation, can understand some Sundanese words spoken by the people of Bandung, but cannot master all Sundanese and vice versa.
So now I would like to present about Creoles. The definition: the term Creoles come from the French Creole, which means indigenous, that was borrowed from Spanish Creole, which means native. It is commonly known as a one-time pidgin, which has become the mother tongue of a community. It means Creoles are the languages that are developed by the children of pidgin speakers. When the children of the adults speaking the pidgin start learning it as their first language, it has proven itself to be a stable language. Then, as the children grow up, they expand the vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar. Characteristics of Creoles. First, unlike Pidgin, which have no native speakers, Creoles have native speakers. A child born into a Pidgin-speaking community will acquire this Pidgin as a first language. Thus, the Pidgin will be turned into a Creole by the process of nativization. Jadi, anak-anak yang lahir dalam komunitas penutur Pidgin merupakan native speakers atau penutur asli dari Creole tersebut. Anak-anak tersebut memperoleh Pidgin ini sebagai bahasa pertama mereka, yang kemudian Pidgin akan berubah menjadi Creole melalui proses nativisasi. Second, the process whereby a Creole develops and a Pidgin acquires native speakers is creolization. Jadi, creolization atau creolisasi adalah proses di mana Creole berkembang dan Pidgin memperoleh penutur asli. Third, creolization may occur at any of developmental stage of Pidgin. Depending on the developmental stage at which creolization starts to happen, there is either gradual creolization or abrupt creolization. Jadi, creolisasi itu dapat terjadi pada salah satu tahap perkembangan Pidgin, tergantung pada tahap di mana creolisasi itu mulai terjadi. Ada kreolisasi bertahap dan ada juga kreolisasi mendadak. Fourth, creolization starts at a stage where the pidgin is highly developed. It is already characterized by established linguistic norm of usage. Jadi kreolisasi dimulai pada tahap di mana pidgin sangat berkembang. Okay, the last abrupt creolization describes the process a stable pidgin could emerge. Here, the process of creolization occurs at an early developmental stage of the pidgin. At this point, it is still characterized by a lack of stable linguistic norm of stage. Jadi pembuatan kreolisasi mendadak menjelaskan proses munculnya pidgin yang stabil. Pada tahap ini, proses kreolisasi terjadi pada tahap awal perkembangan pidgin. Examples. First, Tok Pisin. Tok Pisin is one of the official languages of Papua New Guinea. Tok Pisin is derived from Tok Pidgin. Tok Pisin consists of primarily English influence, but it has also absorbed influence from German, Malay, Portuguese, and their own Austronesian languages. Tok Pisin merupakan salah satu bahasa resmi di Papua Nugini. Tok Pisin sebagian besar terdiri dari bahasa Inggris, namun juga menyerap dari beberapa bahasa, yaitu ada Jerman, Melayu, dan juga Portugis. Second is Papiamento or Papiamento is one of the official language in Aruba, Bonaire, and Curaçao. It is a mix of local language with Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, English, and American Indian languages. Jadi Papiamento itu merupakan salah satu bahasa resmi di Aruba. Bahasa ini merupakan campuran dari beberapa bahasa lokal Spanyol, Portugis, Belanda, Inggris, dan Amerika India. The third is Hawaiian Pidgin or Hawaiian Pidgin English, or simply called Pidgin, is spoken in Hawaii. This Creole language is a mix of Portuguese, Hawaiian, American English, Cantonese, and Japanese languages. Bahasa Creole ini merupakan campuran dari bahasa Portugis, Hawaii, Inggris Amerika, dan Jepang. Okay, the last French-based Creoles are widely spoken in the Caribbean. Well, everybody, that's all about Lingua Franca, Pidgins, and Creoles. We would like to say sorry for the mistake during the presentation, and we hope that the material presented is understandable enough. Lastly, stay healthy. Thank you and goodbye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.